Welcome to tonight's edition of Resource PNG. The presence of gas in PNG has been known for over 25 years, with the first discovery of the Hides gas field in 1987 that had the prime purpose of powering the Porgera gold mine with electricity. But with the construction of the multi-billion kina PNG LNG project, PNG will see large-scale commercialization of liquefied natural gas, with exports expected to commence next year. But just how much foundation knowledge do we really know about the dynamics of the LNG industry? In this segment, Vivek Chandra gives us his expert view of the LNG industry and where PNG fits in the world market. Mr. Chandra, thank you for making time to join us on the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
We understand that you were in the country conducting a workshop for the PNG industry and government on the dynamics of the LNG industry. What was the purpose of this workshop?
I think the purpose of the workshop was to try to offer a perspective on where the world markets are going, where the world gas markets are going, where the world LNG markets are going, but also to make sure that the people in the industry concerned, as well as the government, have that essential foundations of knowledge. So once PNG starts exporting LNG, which will be next year, they understand the issues involved, they understand the dynamics of the world market, they understand how prices might be set, to provide them that basic amount of knowledge so PNG can be an active player in the world LNG markets.
Oil and gas have always been closely associated. The two have similar characteristics. However, on the world market, oil has a world price and LNG does not. Yeah. Why is this? That's
one of the toughest questions to answer, because the natural reaction is to feel that gas should have a worldwide market, just like every other commodity, including oil, has a worldwide market. Unfortunately, the biggest problem with gas, as opposed to nearly every other commodity that PNG exports or most other countries exports, is gas is very difficult to transport. Because gas is difficult to transport, you cannot easily move it from one market to the other, and thus the price of the gas tends to be a regional price or a local price. The temptation is to use a price, let's say in America, or the price in Japan, and say that should be the value of your resource here in PNG. Unfortunately, until you do that massive investment to get your gas to those markets, that price is quite irrelevant. Because in the end of the day, if you can't get your gas to the person who's willing to pay for it, there's no real point in having that price even being discussed. So I think that it matters to PNG more once we start exporting, but I think the important thing to realize is you will still export to the local markets to where you export to, which might be Japan or China, whatever the case might be, that the price in the US may not be that relevant to you. So that's one of the issues. But very interesting, and it's a question that a lot of people feel that we are going to start converging to prices. We are going to start seeing a worldwide LNG price or worldwide gas price, but we're definitely not there yet, and I don't think we'll be there for a few more years.
Can you explain the growing role of LNG in the world markets?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the world of LNG, of course, is extremely exciting. It's extremely exciting for PNG after 30 years of talking about this to finally be out there and be part of that really exciting, the dynamic LNG market. The LNG industry has been around for a long time. The first LNG projects were started in the late 60s. And so we've been slowly just building up the market share of LNG. Now, we have to realize that at the end of the day, LNG is purely a way to get natural gas to market. It is not actually modifying the natural gas. So it's part of the natural gas dynamism around the world. Obviously, natural gas is an incredible fuel because of many reasons. The main reasons being it's plentiful. It's being found all over the world. Natural gas is a low-carbon fuel, so it's great for us as we transition to a renewable, low-carbon economy. And natural gas is a very versatile fuel. It can be used in nearly everything that we can use other fuels for. We can make power. We can generate power from natural gas. We can use it for transportation. We can use it to modify and make transportation fuels. We can use it for petrochemicals. There's a variety of uses. So natural gas consumption, natural gas demand has been increasing anyway, especially in our part of the world where we have these very dynamic economies that need more power. And natural gas power is just a very convenient way to generate power. It's clean, it's modular, it's efficient, it's cheap. There's a lot of advantages over it. The fuel may not be cheap, but the equipment is cheaper than other things. So as the natural gas industry is growing, the demand for ways to get natural gas to market are growing. And LNG, after all, is just a way to get natural gas to markets. Just to kind of add, I mean, the natural gas industry is the fastest growing part of the fossil fuel chain, and LNG is the fastest growing portion of that natural gas industry. So LNG is definitely one of the fuels of the future. The number of players involved in the LNG world is increasing dramatically. The number of exporters, the number of buyers are increasing. And really, in this part of the world, nearly every country that has a coastline is either thinking of buying LNG or is buying LNG or thinking of exporting or is exporting. So, great part of the world to be in, and obviously a very exciting industry.
We'll continue the interview right after this break. We've been discussing the dynamics of the LNG industry in order to have a better foundation of knowledge with Vivek Chandra. As we've learned, unlike other commodities, gas does not have a world price because of the difficulty in transporting to markets, which is why it is usually sold at a local or regional price. In this next part of the interview, we find out why the price of gas may drop in the coming years and how PNG will fare with LNG exports once the gas supply in the US increases. In your workshop, you indicated that the world gas price will fall in the coming years. Why is this?
I want to clarify that point. I think in a simplistic way, maybe it will fall, but it's not. There's a few factors at work. I think in my workshop, I stressed that I think the next few years are going to be a very tight in the industry. Remember, there is no world gas price. So let's start off from the very beginning. The Asian LNG price. Let's look at that because there is no such thing as a world gas price. The Asian LNG price, I think, is determined by Asian supply and demand characteristics. With the added complication, we have long-term contracts that tend to take away from the dynamic supply and demand interactions. In the near term, I feel that the Asian economies and the new emerging economies, I mean, we're talking about India and China and even Thailand and Vietnam and the Philippines, there's a lot of new consumers of LNG. And the next 2 or 3 years, we don't see a lot of new supply of LNG. So basic economics will tell you that we have a situation where there's more people wanting the gas and there's less supply of gas, or there's a constant supply of gas. Another added complication has been the Japan quake, a very unfortunate event, but it resulted in a massive increase in gas demand because Japan has effectively shut down most of its nuclear power stations. So that was something that we didn't expect to see. The world LNG system was kind of ready to supply to the new demand centers of Asia and China, but they didn't expect the Japan quake to happen. So that has added a bit of tightness to the market. So I think the next few years, we actually see the market tight. The prices might go up a little bit. And so PNG LNG is actually coming at a really interesting time. However, I think in the medium to long term, we have a lot of massive changes in the business. The massive changes, I think, are really related to the US and the North American LNG exports. You know, we can digress a little bit, but the North American LNG exports, I think, are going to be an incredible force. There's an enormous amount of volume that's potentially available. I feel that the US government is in a very difficult situation. It cannot refuse the exports permits. There is an issue about free trade and non-free trade countries, but at the end of the day, the US looks at a balance of trade like every other country, and the US buys a lot of things from Asia. It would love to sell a lot of things to Asia, and nothing better than to sell gas. The US gas industry has had an incredible emergence over the last few years with the advent of the discovery of the production of shale gas. The US now could have the second largest or potentially the largest gas producible reserves in the world. You know, I'd say producible because there's a lot of gas in other countries, but the US has this incredible infrastructure in place that any gas you find, you can put it into a pipeline and get it to market. So because now we are in a situation where the US has more gas supply than the local demand, there's a lot of pressure to actually start exporting that. And where do you want to export to? You want to export to this part of the world, which has the highest prices. So in this situation, we might see 2-3 years from now, a lot of US gas starting to come here. It'll start in 2 or 3 years, but I think the tidal wave is going to be after that, as more and more projects, and this becomes a routine balance of trade thing. So by 2017, 2018, 2019, I see a lot of American gas coming to this part of the world. And yes, the economies are growing, but there's more gas than the economies will grow, and I actually see a flat to slightly lowering of prices. So that's why I think that we think in this part of the world, we might actually see a flat or lowering of prices, but in the near term, I think a bit tight. just to kind of finish my answer, I think that the dynamics are very different in different countries, in different regions. Eastern Australia, where I live, we might see actually rising prices because there's a huge amount of gas requirement to feed into the export LNG projects, that the coal seam methane gas that they're trying to find, we'll talk more about that later, are not finding the gas they want, and so that's taking in conventional gas. So an Eastern Australian customer is going to see rising gas prices from now on till a long, long time, while an Asian customer will see rising prices for a short time and then maybe a flatten out. So hopefully that answers your question. And of course, in the States, it's anybody's guess. I think LNG prices or gas prices, because it's such a dynamic market, it'll be pretty much flat from here on out. That's all.
Having said that, seeing the US will increase exports, how will this affect the PNG LNG project, seeing that it commences exports next year?
Exactly. No, I think that's a question that every exporter currently in Asia and every future exporter is watching extremely carefully. They're not worried. They have long-term contracts. Their markets are secure. And I think on the superficial level, they're absolutely correct. But I also feel that the LNG business is very much a relationship business. It's a business that you are now agreeing to supply to your customer and getting into a contractual relationship for 20 years, 25 years. It'd be very hard for me to see how the customer will continue to be happy with your supply and the relationship if they are paying a lot more than the price in the marketplace. So I do think there's going to be some downward pressure on PNG LNG. A lot of these contracts have price renewal clauses where every few years the prices are reviewed by the customer and the buyer. I think that in the future, those negotiations are going to be a little bit tougher because the buyers are going to say, hey, I know we agreed on a certain price formula when we decided the PNG LNG project, but the world has dramatically changed. We didn't foresee this incredible US exports coming into Asia. We didn't see the new pricing scheme that the US exports are trying to promote. And this pricing scheme is actually quite attractive to us. So let us sit down like good partners and try to negotiate a better deal. There'll be a lot of resistance, of course, from the suppliers. But the suppliers, such as PNG LNG, if they ever build a third train, they're going to depend on these customers again. So it behooves them to respond to their concerns. And definitely when the next contracts come along for the third train and future trains, it's going to make a massive impact. And let's not forget, PNG has one project that is obviously active up the road, and that's going to happen, but there's many more projects waiting in line. The projects that are waiting in line still do not have not secured these contracts. Those contracts may be reflecting the reality of the day. So I think there is an impact, and I think PNG should be completely aware of what's going on in the world, understand the dynamics, and try to figure out the best way to respond.
Stay tuned for more discussions on LNG dynamics after the break.